join me as I show you how to do this looped wire pendant and give you some inspiration to work with wire really easily with very few tools. Remember, if you do need any supplies or tools, go ahead and look below the video. In the description, we'll put links there to get back to our website. Gather everything up and let's get started. So to create our looped wire pendant, it's actually quite simple. You can see that I have simple materials sitting here that are rounded, like a pen, a Sharpie, and a mandrel or a reamer as well here. So I have these three shapes. I have a round nose pliers, which you're gonna want. I have a wire cutter, and I have a needle nose plier as well. We're gonna use this along with some thicker wire and then thinner wire to wrap our beads onto our piece. You can play around with this and do different gauges. We're gonna use 18 wire to create. I have 18 gauge wire here, and because you may not be familiar with it, I thought let's go with squared wire. The round wire sample, you can see the rounded wire here that we created our form with is round. The squared wire is going to be, like it sounds, squared. So instead of having a rounded shape, it has four sides to it. That this would be fun to create our pendant. We're gonna do this in a very, very simple way. The first thing is taking your round nose pliers, we're gonna make our bail for the top of our pendant here. To make our bail, we're gonna hold down, I have about a 10-inch piece of wire here. I'm gonna hold down about an inch from the end here, and I'm gonna hold below the plier. I'm holding on one of those flat sides, bend the wire back and over the round nose plier to make a nice loop to go on your leather if you want to. You can either wrap this around or cut it off, taking and holding with your needle nose plier and taking that wire and wrapping it one time around. You can do two or three, but with this thicker wire, generally one time around is fine. Cut off that extra little bit of wire, and now we have our bail for the top of our pendant. You can draw out a design and you can use some paper, but really I like to do it freeform. So I've got here about 6 more inches to work with. And the first thing I'm gonna do, grab my pen. Holding the pen right after the loop, let's make a swirl going around the pen. See, don't overthink it, just make that swirl. We can always twist the bail however we need to after the fact. After that swirl, let's grab the smaller pen. Go to the opposite side and bend your wire around the smaller pen. You can stop and start basically wherever you want. Let's grab our next pen size and wrap around that. No rhyme or reason, just feel the wire and see what it's doing. If I want to continue that wire then to the wrap, we can go the opposite way. But what I'm going to do is take my smaller one here and just round the wire out the opposite way along the edge. Grab onto my needle nose plier here and finish that out, turning the wire around itself. Here is a beautiful little design that we are going to decorate. We didn't overthink it, we didn't overdo it. We're gonna go in here and turn our loop to the top, and now we're gonna have fun adding in some of our beads with our smaller gauge wire. I now have a fun collection of some random gemstones. Some of the amethyst dark pebbles, which are great, and some of the smaller rondelles and the mixed strands, along with some random glass pearls that I have here that I'm going to use to decorate the design. To decorate the design, I'm using a thinner gauge wire, and I'm going to do mixed metal. So I have gold square wire and I have my silver wire here. I would suggest embellishing your wire looped pendant with 24 or 26 gauge wire. I have the wire here in my hand, and I'm going to kind of design it out a little bit. I have the amethyst that I want to be the focus, so I'm going to allow that to sit inside the pendant. We'll wrap some other beads along it and figure it out exactly how we want it to sit. I do know I want the amethyst there at the bottom, so that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to begin by wrapping the thinner wire around the thicker wire. And I'm going to wrap the thinner wire toward the top of the piece, tucking that thinner wire around and wrap it around the piece 2 to 3 times. The reason I'm wrapping it towards the top of the piece is because my wire is going to continue to the bottom. So I don't want to wrap it the opposite way of the way that the wire is going. Once you have 3 wraps or so, you can go in and cut off the extra wire, take it to exactly where you want it to go, and take your needle nose pliers and kind of pinch down that end so you don't poke yourself, and also pinch it down so it stays. Grabbing that wire then, which is coming out from the back, add your first bead. If you have bigger beads and smaller beads, I would always add your bigger beads, which are going to be your focal, first. You can see that bead kind of fits perfectly in that little bottom curve. And once I put the bead on, I'm going to take my wire to the opposite side of my loop and just thread it through and connect. That first bead is there, and even if you just want to stop there and have a really cool pendant with that beaded look at the bottom, you're done. I'm going to wrap it again. Now I'm going up because I want to continue to wrap and use this wire up toward the project. I've wrapped it what appears to be 3 times. It's actually 2. And I'm going to put a bead on the outside of the wire. So I'm going to grab one of the beads here. We'll see if we can get them on the wire. If the wire gets a little bent up, you can go in and kind of flatten it out with your pliers, or even cut it on an angle with your wire cutter. I put my next bead on, let it drop down next to my piece here, and I'm going to once again coil around the form. Taking the wire to the back of the form, letting the wire kind of do what it wants, and I'm just going to show you what my hands are doing here as I'm working with it. My hands aren't really pulling or holding the wire really tightly around the piece. I'm holding the wire tight further back along the design, which is going to prevent it from kinking on the design and having weird bends that you don't want. I'm going to wrap one more time there, holding that wire, and that nice green aventurine bead goes off to the side. If you want to now, your wire's in the middle, you can connect another bead to the middle or to the outer edge. I'm going to bring my wire towards the middle of the next loop and add another bead. In the next loop, I'm going to stick one of these glass pearls here. You can do natural pearls too. And I'm going to stick that at the bottom of the loop. The look that I'm going for is going to be something that looks almost like it's bezel set at a jeweler's. Going in and putting in some of these smaller stones here, dropping them onto my 24 gauge or 26 gauge wire if you're using that. Fits perfectly inside that loop. And then I'm going to once again go on top of the bigger wire, take my thinner wire around and wrap it. If you're a bead weaver that you normally do bead weaving and you're watching this and you're like, I don't know if I can do that, it's the same as threading a needle. Now what to do with your wire. I'm going to take the wire to the outer edge. Notice I have no design in mind for this wire. I knew I had my bigger beads that I wanted, but now I think I'm going to want a little bigger bead off to the side to balance it out. Put that bigger bead off to the side, once again go around the form, holding the wire further out from the form, allowing the bead to sit perfectly where you want it to, and once again bending the wire around. If you get too close to the wire and hold too close, you're going to have unnatural kinks or bends in your wire. After each bend, go ahead and take your hand through your wire, allowing yourself to flatten out your wire. I'm going to grab some more beads now to decorate the interior of the piece a little bit more, and I think I'm going to keep that rather open as we're looking at it. Go ahead and drop that bead down onto your piece, tuck underneath one of the other beads to go around again that bottom form there. Wrap around that wire form that you've created and bring your wire back through the piece. Grab another bead if you want to towards that interior to decorate that inner row. Add a bead. Find the next piece on the form that you want to wrap around, going around the form and bringing the wire through. A lot of this is just going to be the way that you're holding your hands, how you're positioning your wire, and playing around with your bead selection and bead choice. I'm going to continue to add a couple more beads along this interior row. Add a couple beads along the exterior row, and then I'll show you how you're going to basically pinch off and end your wire. Once you're done with your design, what you're going to want to do is get rid of your wire. So just like we've been doing when you wrap it around, you can wrap the wire around the form as well too to end it. It's also if you want to add a new piece like I did here, you just wrap around and add a new piece. It's really simple. So as the wire starts getting shorter, sometimes you have trouble getting through, you can grab with your needle nose pliers, bring the wire through, tuck it around, and put the bead on just like that. You're going to want to make sure that you have about 3 wraps to keep the bead in place, and then cut off the extra wire with your wire cutter. Once you're done with your looped wire pendant, you can choose to put it really on anything. You can do a chain, you can do a pre-made necklace, but what I want to additionally show you is how to do slip knots. So all you need is that wire, your fun gemstones, and for this one I'm going to use some of the suede cord. And I have the suede cord cut into a fairly long piece. You can see me holding it up here because I want to be able to adjust it on my neck. To do that slip knot, what we're going to do is cross the thread, or cross the cord here, and you have one side going to one side going to the other. You see those two ends, and you're going to grab the one end of the cord here, pinch it, the two cords together, take that free cord there and wrap it around once, wrap it around twice over those two cords. So you can see I'm wrapping it back towards the project. It then creates two little loops there, and you're going to take the end, feed it through those loops, give it a little pull, and you can see then you get that double-ended slip knot cord. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, going over here where the other cord ends. You're going to go over here, pinch with your hand here, laying them next to one another, pinch with your hand, go over and make one loop, then go backwards, make another loop, not pulling those loops too tight, bring it around a second time, and then feed that end through those two loops and down. If you do it towards the base or towards the pendant itself, you're just going to have the extra thread or the extra cord coming out. Here, you get to see me do it again. I didn't leave enough room here. You get the extra cord coming out towards the bottom of the pendant rather than towards the top. If you want one single loop and want that design, you can also do it just one time around and pull. I find that the double loop here that you then pull that end through is a little bit more secure when you're working with a slip knot. Pull that down and you have your end there as well. Now to control the slip knot, you're going to hold one side and you kind of pull a little bit and see which one moves. Hold the other side then and pull the other slip knot. This is going to double up the cord where you're going smaller, and then it's going to get shorter where the cord is single as you move those slip knots around. So you'll have those slip knots around the base here and your pendant right along the top. However short you want it to be, you can make it so that you know that the thread or the cord can get doubled around your neck. You can also, after a little tight pull, go ahead and to use your wire cutters on cord, I like that the best, go ahead and snip that cord closer to the piece. Don't glue it, because what you're going to do by accident sometimes is actually glue that knot closed. And there you have that center of your slip knot, which goes perfectly with this looped wire pendant. Thanks so much for joining me in creating these looped wire pendants. Hopefully it gave you a little inspiration and some ideas to create your own kind of gemstone, mixed metal, mixed bead pendants. Gave you a little bit of information on that slip knot as well too, and we'll put other videos on the landing page which you can get to in the link below the video in the description that have other designs that feature the same things as well with a little bit more detail. Thanks so much for joining in, and stay tuned, Potomac Beaters, for more inspirational designs.